Welcome back everyone to the two-headed wolf gaming channel Last Epoch and of course our Warlock. We are now level 20. This tonic fissure is really strong, I really like it. Opens an infernal fissure in the ground, dealing fire damage over time to enemies on top of it, as well as releasing spirits from the fissure that seek nearby enemies. These spirits inflict enemies with torment, a curse that slows and deals necrotic damage over time, and we can have a maximum of one fissure at a time. Either way, really strong. I'm just gonna show it off before we start upgrading the build. So that's how that goes, and spirits actually like go and blast enemies nearby, like they have this small AoE. It's really cool, really strong, helps a lot. As you can see, even the fire damage over time is quite high. So I've actually liked it a lot. Running around with the bone curse here just because it has this AoE instead of going for this one, which has like this very small area of effect. I really like this one. I feel it's better, especially when fighting these squishier enemies, to just throw that curse on and just harvest them. I feel like it's really good. And yeah, this is pretty much what I've been running with so far. So with this in mind, let's start upgrading the build because I've been feeling quite squishy as well. These are my resistances at the moment. I have a debuff, I think. That's why I have a -4 there. Yeah. Marked for death. Your resistances are 25% lowered. Yeah, now I'm good. So overall, I have pretty decent resistances. Now physical and void are low for this area, but I feel like it's okay. Still, we'll try to upgrade the build as much as possible. I've also found this experimental noble sash of sparks. This is the experimental ones you get from those mage capsules you find on the map, and there are actually some of them which are really cool. You should always try to open them to see what you find. Like look at this one. It would give me 2 volatile zombies summoned on potion use and increase the minion damage by 14%. So we could get 2 exploding zombies every time I would use a potion. If I was thinking about the previous build I had running with, you know, the low health build, where I could use a lot of potions and I could get a lot of potions in the process, or when I'm thinking about the Indian build, right, with where I had the 2-piece set of this one, where bone golems, when they hit the enemy, it gave me a chance to replenish 1 potion. That is actually really good, right? I could use a lot of potion and thus get a lot of these exploding zombies, and if you specialize in that you would get even more, or you know, get higher damage. Like basically you could make a build around one of these items if they're really good, and that's really nice. I've been trying to think of how to become a bit more tanky. Luckily we can now equip this Isidora's Tomb Binding, which gives us 200 armor, 11% is cast speed, which we don't care too much for, 32% increased armor, and 80% increased necrotic damage if we've been hit recently. This is really good for us, so I'm really looking forward now to see how much we are getting from the damage. You can see we go from 27% there to 39%. And I've been looking at helmets as well, and I just saw this one. I was thinking, isn't this a class item? And when I started looking through the stash, I realized that most of these items, except for the idols where you have some specific to a class, it seems like these unique items are not focused around the class. Like you can equip them with any of your characters. The only difference would be, or the only downside in a way, you can say that this ring, for example, it gives you the ability to summon wolves up to the maximum number of companions. Unless you are a primalist, this is not going to affect you in any way. So that's the only downside. That's why certain items might be at least partially class specific, right? But you could get the benefits from all the others either way. And here we would get some void resistance, 97% endurance threshold, 14%, 40 health regeneration, and 100% chance to taunt nearby enemies for 2 seconds when we stun an enemy. And for the moment, I am just gonna throw this in temporarily because it gives us the void resistance in the area, and I feel like that might be good. Although the physical resistance might be a bit better, right? Yeah, maybe in the end I'm not gonna do this. We'll see. We'll run around. If I feel like I'm weak, I might throw this for the health regeneration. But that's going to be it for this moment. Let's go for passives first, as we still have plenty of points to spend. I am thinking that I would really like some extra health. If we invest 5 points here, we would deal a bit more damage over time, and I would like to get some of that. Let's get it. Then we can get Cauldron of Blood, where we get increased bleed chance. We're not really focusing on that on this run, so we're not going to do it. Spell damage for curses. I don't really care to do more damage with curses, to be honest. Increased area for curses, that would be nice, but 3% is not that great of an investment. Intelligence +1 per point, and then getting an extra mana per intelligence, that could be very useful. But for now, Spiteful Decay, that's what we're working with. We're also getting here Chaos Bolts, a barrage of chaotic projectiles which land in an area around the target. The explosion deals necrotic and fire damage in a small area. This is a spell. We're going for melee more than anything, but let's just take a quick look at it. It's actually looking really awesome. I love what the developers have done with some of these skills. As far as Harvest goes, I think what we wanted and what I'm going to do is at least invest 1 point there and 1 point here. 100% increased crit chance, 4 Blood Specters, and also getting a few more Blood Spectre necrotic damage there. I think that's really good. On the Spirit side, I guess we're going to go with more damn chance per second. We'll start with that. And here in the specialization slot, I am going to go with the Chthonic Fissure, just because it adds another curse to us, meaning that we are going to be able to do even more damage to enemies. And what are we going to pick? Well, let's see. Less mana cost and get some mana refund. Rare enemies or bosses within 20 meters. But Chthonic Fissure costs less mana and refunds some of the mana if there is a cursed player, rare enemy, or boss within 20 meters when you cast it. Okay. Chthonic Fissure deals more damage. The effect is doubled if you are cursed. Well, it does happen pretty often that I get cursed. So let's invest at least 1 point there. Your Ignite chance. The Fissure gains a percentage of your global Ignite chance. Okay. Not really built that way at the moment. Fissure fire damage on hit. The Fissure's initial impact now hits enemies, dealing fire spell damage, with added damage applying at 300% effectiveness for this hit. Does it do... It doesn't say that it does necrotic on hit or anything like that. So Fissure fire damage on hit could be good. A lot more damage there. Fissure direct damage bonus per second, some leech, damage to rare and bosses, doubles if cursed. We're getting a lot of extra damage depending on curses. I like how that goes. We could get a few more spirits, and I think that is what I might want to do. We could stack a bit more on dam size. Well, what I'm thinking is reduce the cost of mana. Get this one with double if cursed. Torment spreads ignite stacks. So tormenting an ignited enemy spreads all of your ignite stacks from it to a number of other enemies around it. Could work in many ways. I think I'm going to go with Fissure fire damage on hit. And then we're going to do this. Because this allows us, the Fissure fire on hit means that when we are casting it, enemies are going to get damaged by it, not only when they stand on top of it. So that's pretty good. As you can see, our damage went up. We're doing 168, and with the double damage that we do to cursed enemies, this is going to be very good. Cool, we'll do another one of these. Curse, damage. Everything seems to be working really smoothly. I Could use a bit more mana, and I'm thinking that getting that extra intelligence, which also offered us mana, could be a good investment in our passives. Because if I cast one of these conic fissures and then I do one of these curses, that's what? 57. And the spirits cost 31. So I'm straight up going into the negatives at this point. Let's see, another ring. Increase critical strike chance by 30, reduce critical strike multiplier, and give us a chance to get ward on critical strike. I mean, we're getting a bit of void resistance here and a bunch of dodge rating. It just increases our base critical strike. It doesn't really give us the 30%, right? It just increases critical strike chance. So we're not gonna do this for 3%. It's not good enough. For the spirits here, where do we want to go? Have a 90% chance to shred necrotic resistance, I feel is pretty good. Damn chance per second at 60%, that's also really good. I wouldn't really go for anything else here. Maybe reveal rate. More damage. Spirit duration. Spirit duration could actually work well together with this damage to cursed enemies and damned enemies, right? That was our plan. So we'll go in this direction. Bring in a few spirits, do a bunch of attacks. Overall, I feel like it's going really well. Yeah, look at those stacks, look at those curses. We're getting cursed here with Mark for Death every once in a while as well from these enemies. And that just gives us more strength. I need to open that portal. It's going to make our return here a lot smoother. Always pick up this portal. There is a quest. Actually, you know what? There is a passive quest where we have to go back in time and go up here. Go up here into one of these doors in order to get some sort of crystal, right? And let's see if I can collect it right now. That would be very interesting to me if I could do that. Because generally speaking, I'm following the quest and then I'm returning at some point to this area. But maybe I can do it right now. Let's see. Let's get the 5 points here. We will be able to do more damage over time to cursed enemies. On this side, we can now go for the Bone Harvester. 24 melee damage and another 32% increased minion damage. 55 melee necrotic damage and 9 intelligence. This is going to be a whole lot better than what we're running with right now, of course, as far as damage goes. We're losing a lot of block effectiveness and block chance here, but we're not really gaining soul charges at the moment. This is not really useful to us because we don't have the soul feast here or anything like that. I don't think it's really helping us that much. So what I'm going to do here, and I wanted to see how much are we losing from block. Block effectiveness at 57%. Oh, and we're going to 0, yeah. Duh. But let's see how it is to run with this one as far as damage goes. I feel like we should be pretty good on defense given the armor that we have. Another unique belt with the Viper Tail. That's poison and it's something which is for the Primalist, I believe. Poison attack. Okay, so the door is not open. The door would be here. And we cannot actually access it. It's good to know for the moment. So I'm gonna pick that portal. The final test before I start farming to level 35 is this boss battle right here. So let's see what we managed to do so far against a real enemy. As far as passive skill points go, as I said, I think I need more mana, so I started investing in Occultist Mind just to get that extra mana per intelligence, because I've looked in the character panel and I realized I'm at 25 intelligence at the moment. So this is going to be really good for us later on as far as having a good mana pool in order to cast all our spells. As far as spec goes, the Ictonic Fissure here, I've thrown a point in Ash Cloud. The Fissure's initial impact now spreads all of your Ignite stacks from the target to nearby enemies up to a maximum. Now I really need to stack up on chances to ignite enemies. That's something which I will want to do, and I think I'm gonna go with Fissures of Wrath here. The Fissure's initial hit now deals additional spell damage with the higher stun chance per ignite, and this effect scales with bleed or poison if the fissure is converted to physical or poison respectively. It felt like this might be very good. And the fissure's initial hit now curse enemies with acid skills, which causes them to take poison damage over time and a chance to be critically struck by any hit. It's a 20% chance to gain a bit more critical strikes. Poison is not going to be like this super amazing thing. However, it's an extra curse. Extra curse means we are going to do extra damage to the enemy, and I really like that. Let's see, Acid Bane, your hits against enemy cursed by Acid Skin now have a base critical strike chance per 10% of your global increased poison damage. So this is if we want to invest even further in poison. Not gonna help us a whole lot, but I am thinking that this might still be pretty good. So let's start with this. And then I'm going to go and get the Acid Skin just for that extra curse. And let's see how this works. Okay, we'll start with the curse. We're gonna do a fissure. I'm gonna bring in the spirits as well. Now I'm gonna start doing the harvest. So far so good. Doing good damage. We're not really igniting the enemy. Right, it's very low there. I have to think about this, and as we're going towards level 35, I will try to figure out a way to increase ignite chance. Because at the end of the day, if we're not doing this, we're missing on a lot of damage, I feel. And I really need to find myself another skill. Hungering Souls have been decent, but I haven't really been using it. Probably a better idea would be to go with Chaos Bolts. However, the amount of mana it consumes, it really creates problems for other skills. Actually, what I could do is go for Spirit Plague, which is the other curse. It might have not been as effective as Bone Curse, but for a boss, if I go with Spirit Plague here, it's just another curse, which means more damage, which, you know the story up to this point, right? What do I want to get here? I could get more chances to bring in Blood Specters, and that could be really nice. Because now we can summon about one, and we might want to get a lot more than one, if we really want to get something out of it. Necrotic Resistance Shred per 20% point. Yes, we could do this with our normal attacks, and it could be very good. Health gain per point of intelligence. Harvest grants you health each time it hits a cursed enemy. And once again, we have very high intelligence, so getting some of this, however, it would require a huge investment in this area. This could really work. And when Harvest hits an enemy afflicted by Spirit Plague, it applies Withering and has a chance to spread Spirit Plague to additional targets. Okay, so this would make this curse a bit more effective. And I would really like to get a bit more area of effect as well, but I guess for the moment we're just gonna go in this direction, and I'm gonna try to get the most out of it. So with this in mind, I'll start farming. I'll see you at around level 35, and we shall see what power level we'll have then. We are now at level 35, and the journey thus far hasn't been bad, although slower than I expected. DPS wise, damage wise, it's not a problem. We're clearing enemies left and right. And even when encountering tougher mobs, the damage scale up with multiple curses is really impressive. And as I said, damage is not a problem. On the defensive side, however, the story is very different. And this is what slowed down the leveling process. Because making a melee build out of a Acolyte / Warlock in this situation, it feels a lot squishier than a melee build for the Sentinel, for example, right? The Sentinel is built for melee combat. A lot of armor, a lot of ways to increase your vitality especially. Of course, you're getting some strength along the way as well, so you're built to stay in melee combat and do a lot of damage there. The downside for the Sentinel, however, is that it doesn't have as much potential to scale up, for example, throwing damage or range damage when they are built for melee. Right? There are a lot of modifiers which increases your melee damage more than anything and doesn't give you the same leeway to scale up damage with anything else other than melee. In our situation, this is where we have to think about our class's strengths and we have to play to the best of our ability. We are scaling up a lot of necrotic damage and we are scaling up intelligence. There is not a lot of modifiers that tell you that it increases melee damage. So you have to go and look around at what else does this mastery offer. Well, it offers a lot of spells that raise up or increase in strength with necrotic, with intelligence. They add fire on top of that, so it combines necrotic and fire without you having to do anything, without you having to specialize in it. Of course, you can get a lot of potential out of it, but they offer you these options from the start. If one enemy is resistant to an element like fire, you still have necrotic damage. If the enemy is resistant to necrotic damage, you have fire element. So overall, you are doing a lot of damage no matter how resistant the enemy is. So when you're sitting in melee combat, as soon as you're starting to run out of health potions or you're starting to run out of life, it's at that point that you should be retreating until you get yourself some ward or you get yourself some health regeneration here. You can cast these spells which have really good range. They target enemies with this blast. They curse the enemy down, meaning that you can use harvest, you can jump back into melee and do the double damage. Overall, you have a lot of potential. Put down Wandering Spirits, which is a shield which will protect you in melee combat as long as you don't modify it too far. And overall, you are getting all of this DPS that scales up naturally as you are focusing even on a melee build. So with this in mind, let's upgrade this build. I just wanted to explain this stuff to you because I feel it's very important to know like these lessons, to take these lessons from me. It feels like that kind of unique experience that doesn't happen that often unless you actually play the classes. Over on this side, I've invested a bunch of points in intelligence, but right now I'm going to get the 5 points just to increase our mana per intelligence. We start at 92 and we are going to get to 123. That is going to open up a lot of potential spells here, which is going to make us safer. Then, what do we want? Crimson Favors, increase physical damage and bleed chance with Rip Blood. We're not using it. Poison chance 6% per point. And we can get some Poison Overload. And Defiling Nova, which expands. So it's an explosion that happens once you get Poison Overload. Where at this moment we would be doing 79 damage per second. That's pretty good. Word of Malevolence, you gain a additional ward decay threshold and you gain ward on kill. You also gain ward per 2 points of intelligence while channeling a skill. I don't really have a channel. However, I would like some of these. Because we could get some base ward plus ward on kill. That happens pretty often. We're getting some extra health there. Harrowing Armor, we would get 10 health and 10 armor, and once we have 5 points invested, you have more armor per unique curse on the attacker when they hit you. 3% per curse, that is really good. I would like to get some of that. Let's see, what else do we have here? Spirit Leech. A portion of the damage you do is returned to you as health over 3 seconds. Nice. And extra health leech against cursed. And we could get Imperishable here, where we would get 1 vitality and ward decay threshold per 1% necro resistance. I think we're maxed out on necro resistance. That could be great. We also unlock Ghost Flame, channel to release a continuous jet of horrid flames in front of you, dealing fire and necrotic damage over time. 1700 per second? We're gonna try that out. But how do I want to go about this? Because I want all of this here. So I'm gonna get another point here because I want this one. at least get this thing. Then I want the armor. I want a bit of leech as well. We have 5 points, and I think I want that. Let's see what else we unlock. You gain ward and mana when you use a potion. And after 4 points, while you have poison overload, using a potion spreads attack of your poison from all enemies within 15 meters to up to 2 other nearby enemies. That is crazy. Doom Herald, you take less damage while channeling. Okay, we don't really care about that. And ward per seconds, we get 5. And once we invest 5 points, we take less damage per unique curse on the target. So many great abilities. Let's get this one first because I want the extra armor. And I think I want just slightly more leech here. And then we're gonna get this one, probably 5 points there. So many great abilities. And let's see what else. On the harvest side, somehow I feel like blood specters are not that important anymore. They are a distraction, a good one at that, but I don't feel like this is that great, to be honest. So what I am thinking is maybe I will remove myself from this level. So we're going to invest 2 points here. And then I'm going to remove a bunch of points from here. Specters didn't seem that impressive for a while now. So we're going to retreat. It's going to give us a bit of a boost to level up and get some of these other abilities. Then on the Wandering Spirit side, we're going to keep scaling this up to do more damage to cursed enemies and damage to damned enemies increased by 24%. Multiplicative with other modifiers, so maximizing this means that the Wandering Spirit ability, which is most like a panic button or a boss button, will really scale up and be super powerful. On this side, I picked Acid Skin on Fisher Hit just to get that extra curse on the enemy. What else? We can turn this into a traversal skill, but I don't really want to do that. Spirit release chance 25% per point. We can do a bit of that. When torment enemies die, they have a chance to release a spirit to inflict and torment another enemy within 8 meters. That could be really good. And we could get more dam per stack, more necrotic damage per added crit multi. Okay, could happen. And more damage per necrotic resistance, that's even crazier. And also this one, right? We said spirits now target you instead of enemies. And we gain a lot of buff to spell damage. No, let's go in this direction. 2 points here, and I'll get another... Actually, let's get a lot more damage like this. Right? Because we do have a lot of necrotic resistance. Oh. No, it's still more damage per 2% uncapped necrotic resistance. Does that mean that I'm not getting pretty much anything? I think that might be the case. And in the specialization slot, we shall see what we can throw in a second. Let's try Ghost Flame. Let's see how this behaves. Or actually, let's try the melee build out. Let's clear a few enemies here. As you can see, the DPS is crazy. Even for enemies that were far away, we still did really well. Once we throw in a curse, we're doing the double damage in melee. Most of the time I've been using this as well, but as you can see, on the squishy side, we are really taking a lot of damage. In this situation is fire damage. I do have a 45% fire resistance, however it's still not enough. Let's throw in our ghosts there, our spirits. This should help us a lot in this situation. And there we have it. So that's how things have gone so far. We don't really need to worry anymore about anything else. Let's try Ghost Flame out. That's what I said. It's a channeling skill. And it's not bad, but it rages at half health. But it's not as good as some of our other attacks, right? You could say that it clears the area. However, it does use a lot of mana. Like, channel cost is 40. That is crazy. I'm sure I could go down if I specialized in it. But we're not built for this. We really aren't built for this. So the way that I'm thinking I would like to go forward is either with Bone Curse Chaos Bolt could be impressive. Do we have some sort of automatic attack if I was to go this way? I don't think that that is the case. I don't see anything around here which would automate the process. Maybe there is, but it doesn't seem like it, and it doesn't seem like the sort of skill that would do that. Otherwise, it would be an automatic choice. Infernal Shade, it's not a curse, so it's not going to help us. Spirit Plague, if I could increase the area, right, that would be a thing. More damage, but it would reduce the spread range. Cast in area, but it would cost 20 more mana. And it starts at 3. Okay, that wouldn't be too bad. But what if we're going with this one? So let's say necrotic. I think we've looked for this before. Yeah, physical turns to necrotic damage. And I feel like that it could be better. Let's specialize in it. Let's try it out. At the end of the day, what's the worst that can happen, right? And we're gonna go with this increased area. Then we're gonna get Bone Curse applies Mark for Death for 2 seconds but costs more mana. The effects overrides Mark for Death normal duration. Okay. And then we're gonna head in this. Let's continue forward here. The great thing about all of this is the fact that it's such a great area of effect. Okay, let's see a boss here. Applying all the curses, everything that we know. We're trying to avoid those mines on the ground because those will be pretty bad for us. However, as you can see, the damage scale up on that is really good.
Let's see, buried in the slums.
So with this in mind, let's throw back the Spirit Plague because we can use it every once in a while. You can see that we're also getting these, what are they called? Cultists or something? Whenever we're killing enemies, apparently we're getting these Skeleton Harvester, not cultists. They can distract the enemy, they can attract some of the attention. That's why I didn't feel like having the Wraith or the Reaper was good anymore, that Blood Reaper. This is pretty much the build. One of the things which doesn't seem to be working super well is the ward. I mean, if you're taking a look, whenever we're killing enemies, whenever we are in melee combat, everything is fine. And the ward stays up for long, but by the amount of damage that we are constantly taking, that goes down very quickly. And there we have it. Let's try to throw in a few more skills. Actually, let's take care of this one because the area of effect for necrotic damage, like those explosions, can be very bad for our health. More armor, more movement, some vitality, dodge rating, and health. Yeah, for a pair of boots where I want defensive capabilities, yes. I would really like to have a better relic at this point. The 42 resistance doesn't really do much for us. The free intelligence, let's say that it does give us a boost, but I would really like to get something better. I found this mage helmet, which I really felt like it was nice, and I want to try something out with it. +1 to lightning spells, 16% lightning penetration, 6 intelligence, 1% shock chance per intelligence, and if we get the second set, +1 spell lightning damage per intelligence, that can be very powerful. Over on this side, with the curse, we are going down in this section, right? Mark for death lasts longer. Yeah, let's throw the curse before we start doing damage. But as you can see, most of the time just going melee is not super powerful. So what you need to do is make sure that you curse the enemies before you start doing that, because you want the double damage as often as possible. And whenever you have tougher enemies, throw down the Wandering Spirit as much as you can. Throw down the Tonic. I would say it's better to throw down the Tonic and the Wandering Spirit than throwing in a curse. I would start with that more than anything, to be honest. Just because it's doing a lot of damage by the time you get into melee. And if you manage to take a lot of the enemy's health off before you get to them, and at that point doing the double damage could mean that most of the time you're going to kill them. If you also have that kill threshold up to, what was it, 12% was the maximum of it? Yeah, 12%. So if you have that, then it might happen that many of the squishier enemies will be dead by the time you get to them, right? Or when you're doing the double attack. Okay. Gonna keep fighting here. I am focusing on throwing as many curses as possible. That's why I'm here. And because they do have a lot of curses, whenever the enemy is cursed and has damned on them, the Wandering Spirits will do that extra damage, which we kept scaling up in our specialty. And there we go. This is for secondary, and we don't have the space for that, as we're using a two-handed weapon. Over here, yeah, one more point, and we're going to move from physical to necrotic damage. That's going to be superb. Malefic Body, +1 to intelligence and +1 to vitality. Great for melee. Chance of Ruin, damage chance 13% per point. When you cast a necrotic skill and enemies within 15 meters have a combined of 20 stacks or more of them, you chain all damned enemies to the ground for 2 seconds and gain Damned Overload. Damned Overload grants you 1% more damage to enemies per 2 missing health on you and per 2 missing health on the target. Chained enemies are immobilized and take 40 necrotic damage over 2 seconds with added damage applying at 200% effectiveness. These cannot stay. Dude, I want to make a build like I want to continue this. This is so crazy. Ignite chance with once again going in Ignite Overload. Withering chance on heat. Each stack of Withering increases damage taken from curses by 10% and can stack up to 20 times. Dude, some of these things are crazy. Okay, so I have the armor there. Let's say I don't want anything from here at the moment. You take less damage per unique curse on the target. And get a bunch of word per second. Wow, like where do you go here? Let's get a bit more word per second. Just so we can start, yeah, we're going to start gathering some of that word. As you can see, it increased a lot of our health. And I feel like it's very good. As much as we can get, it's going to be good for us. We have good retention. We don't have great regeneration, but we can get into that soon. Now, I know there is an unintended situation, I guess it's a bug, where some endgame builds push ward to like 16,000, I heard, something like that. I'm not going to think too much about that. I'm not that type of player. I'm not looking for dumb builds, so to speak. Actually, no, that's not true. I like them, I like looking at them. If it's that overpowered, I do not want to play them. That's what it is. It's not that I don't. I wouldn't like to look at it or even see it in action, right? That it seems like one of those ideas where you want to see, because I want to see the theory behind it. And I think you're learning from that a lot more, right? If you know how to scale the world up properly, even with a bug, I feel like someone has done their homework and have tried things out and have put together the pieces to make sure that that situation actually happens and it's working. And there we go. At this point, I want to do only one more thing. Let's see. Do I want the healing or do I want the withering chance? And make sure the spirit plague chance, we're not gonna do spirit plague too often. Let's get the healing and let's see how this works. And how far until we get the next one? Gonna take a while. But let's try to take down a few bosses and see what happens. I think while we try to get one more level on that curse, on the bone curse, let's draw some conclusions about everything that's happened. First of all, with the Warlock class, I like where it's going. Those skills, especially those passive ones, super impressive. Super impressive there. I am super excited to try it out. Somehow, I liked where the build was going thus far, but seeing all of those modifiers when you invest 5 points into one of these 3, it's mind-blowing. Like, why wouldn't I want... What's the maximum level? 100? I think that is the maximum level. For active skills, you have a maximum level of 20. And we are now, the biggest is at 12. So getting 20, definitely worth it, right? There's definitely a lot more points that you can invest. Getting 100 levels, if you are getting passive every level, I'm really looking forward to see what I can do with that much work. And yeah, I was excited by the Warlock. I liked where it was going, but now I'm super excited to see the maximum potential for it put into action. Like, I want to see this build work. Would I recommend it to new players? Yeah. I don't think most of the people would turn this into a melee build, and that is totally fine. I think you can do a lot with just focusing on spells, and it would still be just as fun, if not more. And that's about it. I think that's about it as far as the Warlock goes. As this entire series, I think I've said in the previous run as well, probably the best idea I have ever done. To try out all of the classes out to this mid-level was one of the best experiences I've ever had. I knew I was missing out when I didn't play classes in, Path of Exile, like Titan Quest. I am looking forward to Grim Dawn as well, but I would have gone into it with just the mentality that I'm going to take one class to the end game, and that's going to be it. But the thing is, trying out all the classes, especially on a good game, on what you know is a good game, totally worth it. I've learned so much for it, I've gained so much appreciation from all of these classes, which I wouldn't have done otherwise, except for maybe in a few years. And maybe if Path of Exile has taught me anything, is that you can invest 3,000 hours in a game and still not get around to playing all of the classes. And I feel like that is a huge loss there. That is such a big loss, and it's not worth doing. Try out all the classes, get into it, give it a go, let me know how it went, but I'm sure you're going to be happy with the progress. This has been the longest episode, I think it had to be. I'm just going to throw a curse like this bone curse with necrotic damage just to see what happens. Or did it change the type of damage that enemies take? Bone curse base physical damage is converted to necrotic. Consequently, this damage scales with increase to necrotic damage, but not increase to physical damage. So, applies a curse that causes necrotic damage over time when hit. When hit, the damage is tripled if you inflict the damage yourself. So now that I am going and cursing the enemies with Bone Curse, we're gonna do a lot more damage. 800 damage there with the double attack on crit. Superb. That's how you scale up damage. Who knew? Well, that is going to have to be it. If you've watched this entire series, or if you've watched even one of the classes which you found interesting and you've enjoyed it, do consider leaving a like. Helps me, helps any channel on YouTube grow, and it would be much appreciated. If you have any thoughts about the series, about the build, or anything like that, leave it down in the comment below. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next run, where I'm actually going to go for the end game. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all to have a wonderful day.